like
How about a teapot? Teapot?
How about a tray?
What?
A tray.
I want to see a teapot.
Let's do a teapot. Yeah, we can do a tray too. Because then we can do the tray with the handles. Yeah. We can easily do
Yeah,
that.
one of those cool handles that you have on those trays.
Okay, so for this one, this will be the bottom of a teapot. We have a student at school right now we have a really good ceramics program at our high school. We have a really good art program.
Who's doing that now?
Pat Hoffman, Pat and Beth Pfaff, and Chaucer's wife.
Yeah, do you think it's just the
And the students, and you know who got hired there? Remember Suka Wyrob, our grad student in printing?
Oh yeah, I do.
He got hired there.
Yeah.
So we have like the best program going at the high school right now. It's just awesome. And so we're getting quite a few students from there coming up to Bozeman.
Oh, cool.
And they're really good. They're really talented.
Is it
Well
wonderful?
trained.
Yeah.
Yeah, respectful.
They're ready for you. You don't have to whip them into shape. Isn't it nice that there's enough money in Montana's school system to afford a good art department? I mean, really.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think, I don't know, the high school program in Bozeman seems to be pretty solid, and it has been for years. We had a guy named Rick Compo. Ray Compo. You know that big cylinder you have? That's his nephew or something.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
He's going to make this teapot. He's going to make the
Yeah.
bottom bowl right with the tape on it.
Yeah. So I'm going to make a really thick little cylinder, and then I'm going to fasten it into a shape, into a bowl shape. So I had a bowl at the show last night that was made like this, and then I actually had a little liquor set there that was made like this too. But we can make it as a teapot too. One of the things that Clary Illian talked about a lot was how you get one sort of idea or one maneuver that you accomplish, some kind of nuance that happens with the process, and then you make it as one kind of pot, and then as you're making it, you kind of get these flashes of idea about that could be a great teapot, or that could be a great
It's
bowl.
beautiful texture for salt and soda.
That's
It creates
true.
a real good texturing pattern.
But it's like one idea becomes all sorts of different pots.
Almost speaking to you.
So now I'm going to just flatten this out. And the reason I'm flattening this out is so then I can cut the edges off of it and get a fairly even cut on this, relatively even. Don't want it too even.
Why don't you look handmade?
That's why we're here.
Special tool for this.
Ooh.
This is a piece of Rosie's hair. No, I'm just teasing.
Yeah, it looks like it.
It's one. You know how you have a cutoff tool and the wire breaks, and then you stick your finger with it. Everybody's had that experience, right? And then you unwind that wire, and you've got a good wire to go still. This is what you unwind. So it's a really
It's a hair.
thin wire, but it makes nice cuts. So I go to all the trouble to do that. It's cheap too. Then I
Sorry,
can get a nice
Yeah, no.
wavy cut on there. You know, I like the idea of having a specific tool that will do specific things for you. And this is one of those examples, but one time I had a trimming tool, an old pear trimming tool that had been sharpened into oblivion, so it was down to just this tiny little razor on it. That's when it was getting really good, you know. And then it was traveling in a bag and it got crinked. And I pulled down and like, oh God, oh no, it's terrible. And then I made a cut in the clay with it, and it made this beautiful pattern. And then, you know, I had this tool for a long time. It survived for a long time, and so I have this whole time period of pots that happened that had that tool with those marks on it, you know. And then it broke. And, you know, but those pots are still out there. It's kind of nice to think about how I mean, clay is so specific to capturing a moment that way. I have another, somewhere out there's a pot that has, one day I was playing catch football with my friend Sam Katz, one of my best friends from Mendocino, this older guy. We were out there playing catch, and the ball bounced and went bouncing up on the porch and walloped this bottle I had, and made this really nice impression on the side of it that looked like the end of a football. It was a whap, you know. And I was like, oh no! And I was like, that's pretty good. And now, you know, I remember that day vividly because of that impression that happened. It was pretty nice.
Very cool.
So this is a new adaptation. This will do kind of the same thing. It doesn't make that nice mark of that crank tool I have, but I can buy this at Walmart really easily. I can cut the edges right off of this. And what's going on here is that it's making a really strong line in the form, but it also is sort of evening out the clay thickness, because the corners are really thick. Because this thing's about 1/2 inch thick all the way down. So now what I'm going to do is stretch this out, and if I compress the top, if you think about this, what I'm doing is I'm holding on to this lip. So, you know, the bottom is turning like this, and I'm holding the lip really tight up here, so it's going to make it twist a lot. And as I'm doing that, I'm going to compress that lip so that it doesn't all rip apart. And I'm going to slowly work my hand down inside of it. Okay, so that could be one, there's one vase. You can make a whole set of these, right? Could be one vase. Yeah. Okay, let's do another one. Look, there's another one. It's a little different. Or they could be like really, you know, they could be like really nice Scotch glasses. That weigh about, you know, that weigh about, you know, 20 pounds each, but those, you know, they're like really substantial. But they feel nice in your hand. You're going to make some of those. You'll see. You'll see them out on the market soon. But you know, there's thick glass like that. You know, I mean, it would make sense. Don't look at me like I'm crazy.
I was thinking of those Pisco glasses you made.
Oh, yeah.
And how tiny they were.
They're too small, aren't they? See? is a good example too, because you can see how lumpy it is up on the top here. So sometimes doing this little technique, it gets out of control and you lose them. You have good days and bad days with it. But if it's a good day with it, you can stop, and then you could trim that up and make it a soup bowl, right? So that could become a soup bowl if you work on cleaning up the inside there. That will be one variation with it.
Josh, have you ever taken a tool and just started at the base of a pot, that shape, and just gone up like that and achieved the same thing on the exterior?
I haven't.
Mm.
I'll have to try that though. I don't quite understand what you're saying though.
Well, if you start at the base with it turning like that and take the tool and just let the pot, just kind of your hand travels up with the pot like that, and the effect is the same, I would think. But I don't know, because I don't know what the heck I'm talking about.
Well, you gotta try it. I think I know what you're saying.
It's like cutting threads.
Yeah.
In a machine.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so a couple of things about that, like, how you get that quality of that line, right? That's kind of what we're talking about, right? It's the quality of the line with it. But, and the quality of, this, because of those hard cuts in the edge, those are all those prominent lines that you see. But then the other surface too is a result of the cutting. The cutting and the stretching that happens. Because the other thing you can do is just make a form and then make marks in it and stretch it. And because the stretching is what will do some really magical things too. But it's a different surface too. A little bit different surface.
That's so cool.
What? Yeah, I got one right here though.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good. Well, I've even got a bat on the wheel, but I don't need it.
So what about how sharp that is after it's placed?
That's a good question. After it's bone dry or even leather hard, you can kind of just take your hand and sort of not brush it all off, but you can kind of go over it and take the really hard edges.
So
You can kind of soften
you
that.
said
just a
bone
little
dry or
bit.
leather hard?
More like hard leather hard.
Cheese hard.
Okay.
Cheese hard.
Think of Romano cheese.
Yeah, Romano cheese. That's it. That's it. Yeah. Not mozzarella. Go with the mozzarella steak.
Romano hard, yeah.
Romano hard. I like that. That's good.
That's my favorite one.
Yeah. But the other thing too is it depends on like where. Think about how the hands can interact with that too. So I'm going to make this, and then I'm going to put a top on it, and then I'm going to put a handle on it. The handle's the thing that somebody's going to handle a lot, right? So I'm not so concerned about that razor blade edge down there. Like, if somebody cuts themselves there, they should. No, but yeah, I think the Romano hard is a good answer for that.
Damn, sorry. That's not mine. I got from some other guys.
Yours.
Okay, it's mine.
My only rule is the kids' class stuff can't go home with razor sharp edges.
Yeah, no, I know. I think it's that's and sometimes I run into that on cups a lot, or handles and things, and I've tried to train myself into. And sometimes I'm successful, but you can check out there's edges on there like, geez almighty, that would be a razor blade. So, I try to catch those, but at Romano hard,
But
that's the best time to do
I think
it.
Pete Pinnell said something like that, where he would keep a sharp spot so he could think about what he's drinking.
Yeah.
Be more in tune to what the coffee,
like
rather
that
than
answer.
absent-mindedly drinking it and then.
He helped me.
That sounds like justification.
He
big
helped me
time.
understand Linda Christensen's handles much better. Those are the best explanations for the most uncomfortable handles in the world. You know Linda Christensen's pots? Amazing. They're so great. And she's just like one of the greatest things out there. And her handles, when you see them, they're like, I mean, they make you drool. They're so beautiful. They're just like juicy and gnarly. And then you go to handle them and they're like, they have all these pressure points on them, you know. And I always pick them up and I'm like, oh, God, jeez, you know, I'm so bummed out about it, you know. But then Pete has this great video, right? That YouTube of him giving a talk about cups.
Yeah.
I love that thing. And he talks about Linda's cups and the handles and said, you know, it always reminds me, like all those pressure points reminds him that it's a handmade cup, right? And he doesn't forget about it. And I thought,
I haven't seen that.
That's very cool.
okay, so then we got to make, we're going to make a top that fits on top of this. That'll fit that lid. Okay.
So double fold, you know?
Very complicated. It's just very, very
Advanced.
complicated.
Now my grad professor, he had a box of it. He would fit. And Yoshi or Pia.
Yeah.
He was just like, oh.
Oh, really? Like already
Way to
fired
do it.
ones?
Yeah, he'd decorate them all. He'd have like about 12 or 20 lids. And
kidding.
he can't make his teapots. And then he was like,
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
fit the right one for the right
Where were you?
Kansas State University.
Really?
Definitely different.
Never heard of such a thing.
That's
That's
a good
funny.
idea.
Yeah, Yoshi was a character.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to be the knob. One time, when at first I got into Archie Bray, you know, I was in a total state of euphoria, just like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And then here comes Ferguson, just to shatter the illusion. Great.
Nasty
One of the first summers I was up there, he came up to work in the pottery, and it was really a treat. We really had a great time up there. But he came driving in his little pickup. He's got a little. And Ken Ferguson was this enormous man, enormous in so many different ways. But he comes in and like he doesn't get out. He gets out of the car, and he doesn't say hi or anything. Right? He's like, I got a pot. I gotta get fired. And he had this, you know, this big hair basket. It was spectacular. You know. But the lid didn't fit very good, right? So he's out there. It's bone dry. He's got a fettling knife. Trimming that lid down. Yeah, that'll work. Oh, note to self. That's how you do it.
And I'm not the only one who does that occasionally.
Pot came out great.
There's certain tricks, we'll call them. The last ditch tricks, you know, saving like things that would otherwise be ruined. That I know I debate about teaching them to, you know, students because next thing you know, that's like their regular methodology. You're like, no, that's supposed to be to like salvage something that is absolutely, you know, not like your regular.
And it's always that thing.
The grader or
you know,
whatever, you know.
It's always that, it's like, these things are really fragile right now. Can I fix this?
Yeah, exactly.
And I always say, well, we can try.
But then you regret it, see? Then it becomes their regular technique.
No, then it comes out of kiln and it doesn't have work too, you know, like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had
The trick
so
didn't
many,
work, yeah.
it didn't, you know.
Teton knows.
A doctor giving odds. I'll give you. You might get the magic water out of me.
Magic water out. Yeah, exactly.
Chance of survival, 20%.
You know what the magic water is?
Oh, I do. Yeah. I
Okay.
totally know what you mean. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
laughing at the magic water.
I got way too much clay here, so I'm going to do another one of these fancy tricks. Okay.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
neat. I know. There, that's another part of the knob. It gives us a couple of options.
Good video.
So, with this thing, you know, it's hard to put a flange on this for a lid on here. So, it makes more sense to make them in two parts here. So the top of this is going to be the top of the teapot. And I like this really flat shelf that comes across. It's going to sit right on top of here because then a handle, like it works nice with the handle and the way the spout works on there. You'll see. Trust me. And of course this is, you know, it's thrown right on the wheel head, so there's plenty of, that's close enough. It's got a little bit of variance there, but this is the one that matters. Okay, so we're pretty close there, gotta go a little bit farther.
Really close. Really close.
I've always looked at, you know, those kind of issues about utility, like, you know, how well the lid fits, how well it pours, how comfortable a handle feels. Those are kind of they're long-term goals, I think. I mean, you're always trying to make it work a little bit better. And lids are one of the best examples for me because I've always had a hard time making my lids fit very well. But you know, within the last like few years, they're starting to fit better. Yeah, they're, you know, it's more testament to it. Just keep practicing. Just keep practicing. You'll get there with it. I had a pot one time that experience with a teacher, a wise teacher, that I had a pot that came out of the kiln that I was making these folded jar kind of weird funky things, you know, on the lid. You put the lid on and be like, oh, there, maybe that's it. No, you know, they didn't work very good. But and I had one, you know, this one pot that came out and like it had all the drama of the ceramic process right there. It was beautiful. It had really nice firing. It had like all this, the glaze had run kind of sideways on it. The lip had cracked and then the glaze had filled it in again. It's like, oh, it was one of those things. You bring it out of the kiln, you're like, oh my God, this is cool. It's a cool thing. But the lid was like this hockey puck kind of thing, you know, totally. And I was talking to my teacher about it, and I was like, oh, it's not very good. And he's like, who cares? He just yelled at me. You know, it's that thing about the, it's the same thing I was talking about with Val's pots a little bit, about the sensibility of the form or the sensibility of the object is going to demand a certain thing. You can get away with a lot. I like the word fudge with ceramics quite a bit because you can always fudge it just a little bit more. Okay, so that's going to sit on top of that. That fits inside there. The spout goes on. And then we put a handle over the top of it. Okay. And maybe, okay, let's do one other quick little thing and then we'll take a break. You guys doing good? Ready for it?
Yeah,
Let's make a couple of cups so we can talk about cups too. Because we'll have a busy afternoon. A lot of assembling this afternoon. Could leave this on the bat. These splash pans are just the best thing in the world, but they just block everything. You never get into it. Oh, it's going to be perfect. You guys are lucky. This one's going to work.
Do you throw all your teapots like this?
No, I like to keep it strong. I don't know if that matters so much, but there is something about that cut edge that always kind of drives me crazy. You know?
This is lovely. Natural.
Whenever I have a cut edge, I want to add a lip to it. You know? So now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make one more part. I can feel the restlessness. It must be lunchtime.
We're kind of aiming for 12:30. Does that work?
Oh, is that right? Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say.
Well, by the time I get this lid made, it'll be 12:30, maybe 1:45. So we can make a tray too.
Yeah, everybody was asking about the handles.
Yeah, I know, we got to do
Last
those.
night I heard like 5 people ask you about those handles.
So while I've got this clay here, I'm going to do this a little bit backwards. I'm going to make a lid first, and then I'm going to throw a top for this that the lid fits into. So I'll make the lid first, and then measure that, and then make the other one to fit it, theoretically. Beansy beansy.
Josh, do you draw a lot of things before you don't draw?
I never draw. I mean, I don't. Sometimes I'll doodle that way, but I don't do it very much, really, honestly. I like to, if I'm going to spend time drawing, I want to try and look at something and draw it. Because I kind of, you know, it's sort of it's a little bit of a. I can get lost doing that pretty easily, like but in a good way. I mean, I think I really like that phenomenon of trying to see, trying to look at something and then trying to understand it by translation.
Yeah.
There's the holes in the back of your saran wrap.
Well, it must have a great deal of truth about it, because just think of all the people who sat themselves at the Louvre and, you know, tried to paint copies over and over.
So this is, you know, it's not a very exciting lid, but it's what gets the job done on this.
It's great.
use the small calipers on this one. So, double measurement here. We'll have to measure this. Somewhere around there. So now if I'm really careful with this, cut this off.
We're on the runway here.
This is an airplane.
Very excited.
Sometimes they really buzz
my
the ceiling of
toothpaste?
this place, the roof.
Yeah.
Just like, whoa.
Yeah.
There's a guy with old fighter planes. He's got a little collection of old.
Huh.
And those things make some noise.
Yeah.
Going through here.
Big motors.
Does he fly those more than once a year?
Oh yeah, I see them go by a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
And they goes, oh, there goes something.
So you guys know this trick? So I cut it off there once, and then I can cut it a second, make another little pad here, and I can
Make
pick
another
that
little
up. So then I don't touch my perfect lid that I made.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good.
Isn't that cool?
That was
Yeah.
that was a Rick Pope trip.
Really? I didn't
Haven't seen that.
on the poster for the St. Croix River Valley thing.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's it. We were talking about that a little bit this morning about YouTube videos. You guys into YouTube videos for pottery?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I know you can never get the professors to show you anything.
I never.
You don't need them.
for her.
Just go right online. Awesome. Isn't that right?
Okay.
See very good. Me too.
Someone or other, like, boy, I'm really sorry that someone posted that to you online. You know?
We have the students do a research project about an artist. You know, they have to find somebody and do a research project about them and try to relate them back to some kind of historical thing. And one kid did a whole thing about Simon Leach. Simon Leach was Bernard's grandson, one of his grandkids, and he's got this. There's Johnny Leach, who's like the country potter, and Simon's like the, you know, yeah, I make pots and I live in a condo and you know and such, and I dry the pots out on my porch and then fire them in the electric kiln. And he's sort of all really matter of fact about it. You ever watch any of his videos?
Yeah.
They're hilarious, aren't they?
Simon Leach.
Simon Leach.
Where does he live?
Where does he live? He's in Pennsylvania, I think, or New Jersey or something like that.
Downtown Manhattan.
Yeah. No, he's out in eastern Pennsylvania somewhere. I mean, he's just smart. They're pretty entertaining. I mean, my friend, one of our students, you know, he stays up all night and watches all of them. You know, he's learned way more from that than he did from anything. Okay, so now we're going to make the other parts for a teapot, and I'm going to start with the spout. Spouts are another one that you should do series with. Make a lot of them at once, so you give yourself more choices. And I always throw spouts off the hump. And I always try to throw a spout so it has a lot of extra volume down on the bottom here. Partly because I like the way it looks, but also it captures a lot of liquid when it goes to pour. So I think that helps a little bit, and it just gives you more options for forming it on the pot too. So the other thing you always think about with spouts, I think, is just the scale of it. How big should that be? How big should that opening be? And what's right for a teapot, or what's right for a oil pot? what's right for an oil and vinegar thing, you know, and that can come, you know, I mean, that, just think about it. Think about what that sensibility should be. I tend to like teapot spouts that are really big and wide. Not because they pour better, they actually pour worse, but I just like that feeling of generosity that happens out of it. You know? There was I have to tell you this story too, because we had this collection of work at the Bray that's amazing. There's a lot of great stuff there. There's a little teapot that Hamida made that lives in the office, my old office, right? So I was sitting, and I could always look over and like, wow, that's cool, you know, one of my heroes. That's beautiful. And then there was a show, and the pot was in the show, and then so it left my vision, my daily vision, you know, and went out on the road and traveled around. But while it was gone, my imagination went haywire. It was really cool. Because I'd be making teapots, and I'd be thinking about this Hamida teapot, and the spout was so generous. It's like, it's just this huge opening on this it was like, God, just give it this feeling of generosity. So I'd be making spouts and I just want to be like that Hamida teapot. They kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, you know. Wow, oh, geez, just like that Hamida teapot. And then it came back, and it's like, God, it's so wimpy. Look at a wimpy little spout. It was pretty funny. It was you know, it just got out of control. But it also, you know, I think, I don't know, I like the exaggeration of it too, a little bit. But if I make spouts for like an oil pot or for oil and vinegar or like a wine ewer or something like that, I always feel like that's a different scale of spout. It influences it a little bit differently. But the one thing that I try to pay attention to is when you're making this shape, try not to let it trumpet out on a spout, because that's when the stuff goes. Think about it, right? And then it's like you go to pour it and it goes everywhere. Try to have the smallest end of it be right at the end of the spout. The ones that really work are really narrow, right? They're really a small opening. You're right at the end of the spout. You pour it, it's like, you know, it's perfect. It's like a
not fun to clean though.
No. Oh, cleaning. It doesn't count.
You see my Todd Burns teapot, Catherine, in my house? But it's got like a lid on it this big. I mean, I have to like pour so much water to get the tea leaves out, and like it's so impractical. It's ridiculous.
That's like the one I have.
But I use it all the time.
Oh yeah, can't quit using it. Totally impractical. Gorgeous.
It pours well.
So the other thing I always try and do is I just let it be. You know, I don't like it cut on the edge. I like it to have that top that's thrown on there. So I try and get it. You know, it's usually always off center, so that works out just fine. But even if it's perfectly centered, I'll try and whack it off center a little bit so that it has that edge that isn't cut. I like it. Okay, now we'll do the teapot. This one's almost ready.
Yeah.
So then I just trim this out of here. Just cut this out of here very delicately. Take your time. You guys ever see the movie about Isaac Buttons. Ever heard of him? Yeah. Huh?
Benjamin Button?
No, Isaac Buttons. No, there was a potter. There really was a potter named Isaac Buttons who was there's a great silent movie. It's on YouTube. You can look it up on YouTube. But he was a real character. There was a guy named Isaac Buttons, and he could throw like you watch him throw, and it's just like the most amazing poetry. Really beautiful. It's really fast and fluid. And then throughout the whole movie, he's like there in a suit and a tie with the same pipe coming out, you know.
It's a professional.
Everywhere from digging the clay to like processing the clay to mixing the glaze.
In a suit and tie?
You ever seen that? It's a great movie. It's a silent movie. It's all black and white. He could throw it. They said he threw a ton of clay a day, I think it was. Yeah. It's not that much, is it? That's a lot. Are you kidding me? Okay, now watch this. Oh. Look, it's done. No trimming. No, it doesn't fit yet. No, we can make it fit though. Custom fitting.
Right. This is so yeah.
I was like that language about building. We talk about when you're making pots about building pots.
Building
Like
pots.
it's like an ongoing construction project, you know.
Well, we were just talking about how much of it you brought to the studio with you this morning and how much we've inspired you to change your original thinking. We hope we've been a positive influence, but I can't imagine you didn't come with this idea in mind.
Now, which idea?
Well,
What are you talking about?
what just went up to the roof of the truck there is just gorgeous, and truly, I mean, you're a real artist. It's really fun to watch you be an artist.
He inherited it from his mom and dad.
I did. I tried hard to get away from it.
You take 45 out there.
Okay.
There was no other way, no way around it.
I'll bet you felt that way.
I did.
I bet you still do.
I tried hard to get away from them, but then I ran back to them as quick as I could.
Well, they were worth running to. I didn't meet your dad, of course, but I met your mother, Darin.
Yeah, they were characters, definitely.
Your mom and dad were characters? Both of them?
Oh, yeah. His mother was.
Yeah, the original Bohemians
Yeah.
in Bozeman.
Really?
That's what they called them. They weren't really that crazy, really, but they had, you know, there was just a great community, really great feeling of community there. That it's interesting. It's, you know, Helena has a great community,
Yeah.
really great community, and Bozeman has changed, and it's, you know, it's a different, I don't know.
You still like it in Bozeman?
Yes. Yeah, you know, but it's, I mean, some parts about it I like a lot more than Helena, but I miss the community in Helena. Yeah, there was a really tight arts community in Helena that was pretty special. And, you know, I think it's interesting. It's like with the university, there's a lot of activity, but it's really feels really fractured, I think. And there's a lot of new people that have moved into the Bozeman area. A lot of foreigners. Make me nervous.
So, Josh, do you think that Joan Holter and Jean Bacchus held the Helena community together? And what about Shirley Gannon and all of that? I think she's still alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mary Jane. Did you ever know Mary Jane Davidson?
No.
There's another one too. Yeah, there was just a, you know, in Helena there was also this great sort of sense of patronage in the arts.
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
was
Huge.
really pretty special. And, you know, there was, I mean, with the, and, you know, I think Archie Bray cultivated a lot of that. I mean, Archie
back another
was pretty, you know, even before the foundation started, I think he was pretty, but I also, you know, I think there was a sort of a culture of patronage in the arts there that, and it's still, you know, the remnants of that are still there, I think. So, you know, it's like you go to all the events and you see all those people are there. Like they go out and support everything. They love it, you know, because there's this, they've cultivated this character in the town that's really amazing. And I have to say that I think, you know, I think that happened in Bozeman too, in an earlier time, but something changed there. I mean, it did for sure, and it doesn't have the same kind of feeling of community. It feels like it's been overrun.
That extra 40,000 people?
Yeah, yeah. You know, and then some of our best ones leave. Move to Idaho.
Don't worry, I'm moving back.
But, you know, I still have hope. Definitely. It's still a good place. It's got great potential.
It's the last best place.
Well, there's one more.
There's always one.
That would be Kuronia, right?
Oh, Kuromiya, yeah.
Potentially.
How many more potters are down there now? Did you buy any property down there yet?
It went up $100,000 in 2 years.
Did it?
Wow.
I'm waiting for Susie and Kent to give up hope.
Oh, yeah? So you can scoop their place?
They got the point.
They got the point. Is the lighthouse still there?
Uh-huh. And I think Randy's going to start to build this year.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay.
This is so exciting. This is so amazing.
Okay, so this will kind of tell us where we want it to go too. when I put that on there, I kind of let it flop over in different ways, and usually the weak spots will collapse a little bit, and it just makes it kind of undulate like that. And then usually it'll suggest where the spout wants to go. It seems like it wants to go right here. That's what I'm thinking. So if anybody has any different ideas, too bad. So I'm going to cut this off at an angle. And this is probably pretty important to notice that it's really flexible. It's still nice and damp, nice and moist. So, you know, it's a funny thing about that 10,000 hour thing with clay, and with all, I think with hand, you know, with well, I guess it's with pretty much anything that you do, you know. If you want to get very good at it, you got to do it for 10,000 hours at least.
Donkey miles.
Yeah. But it's that thing about how you learn how to, you know, this is like a long-term tool, right? Like how you learn how this happens. Because man, for a long time you can't do this, right? If you touch this, it screws it up, right? Like you'll muck it up, and then you guys know the term cat licking. Okay, so like you make something and then you go like this, try and clean it up, and pretty soon it looks like the whole thing is like slipped over. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's cat lick.
It's hard for beginners to get them to stop overworking, you know, working
Exactly.
stuff. They
Yeah.
leave it alone.
They got to get their license.
Yeah.
So if you practice long enough, then you get your license for cat licking, and all of a sudden you can start doing this, and you get away with it because you have your license. But if you do it too early, then you're screwed, because you look at it and it's like, God, it looked too overworked. It's terrible. But if you just trust me that is the case. Just stay away from it, and then one day you go to the mail and you get this official card. You'll have your license.
Club of America.
Yeah. And then you'll know how to cat lick without it getting all mucked up. So if that's really flexible, there I can make that fit right around where I want it, wherever I want it to fit. I'm trying to keep that bottom from collapsing because it's so wet. So spout, this is critical point, right? Can only fill it up to that height. So you don't want it down here. Everybody makes a teapot like that. I've got one
Their
at
first
home.
one.
We got about 10 at home.
Yeah.
My wife buys them like, I want that teapot. We're good. Well, it happens to me all the time.
Where does she buy these
collect
teapots?
At art shows and places
At
where
art
like,
shows,
teachers are selling their teapots.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a shelf piece.
No, no.
Okay, then we have all this extra material here. I can cut some of this off because it'll be hidden underneath there. And then this is got one other little maneuver on this for these teapot spouts. Set. I marked it there, and then wherever the mark is, I kind of work my finger around on the other side here. I'll show you in a second. So I just soften this up and create a little T-ball on the inside of the teapot. You know, so your leaves don't all go into the concave space. They go onto a convex ball on the inside. And then they fall away gracefully as you're making your tea. Nobody uses loose tea. They all use tea bags. No, they don't. No. They could use loose tea if they wanted to. I use loose tea. I actually have some teapots at home that I've been using just to try to learn about them a little bit more. It'll work all right. So see how that's all forced in there? And then don't forget to put holes in it. Put some holes in it. I've got one of these nifty little hole punchers. Here, you can. I used to just use my fettling knife like this and make holes like this. And then a friend was watching me do that, and she's like, "God, that's pathetic." Here, try this. And she gave me all these. These are from China. They make these nice little clean holes.
Uniform size.
Uniform size. I'm sorry. I know I'm trying to. So if you're really clever, you can do this like in a zodiac pattern or something. But you know, for me, like doing this number with making all the tea strainer holes it's kind of part of what helps define it as a teapot for me. If it was for another liquid, I would just put one big hole in there. But you know, being that it's supposed to be a teapot, I like to go to the labor of doing all this. Usually these things don't stick in here nearly bad. I think this size is actually pretty good because those will shrink and they'll fill up with glaze. By the time you do that, they'll be pretty small.
And it'll be like a 1-cup pot?
This will fill up. You make a decent pot of tea in this. It's not that small, Al.
Place.
Bigger than that one of them Yixing teapots. You guys know about Yixing teapots in China?
No.
There's a town in China called Yixing where they invented the teapot. They truly invented the teapot. You ever been there?
No.
I've never been there either, but I know the teapots are. They reinvented the teapot for over 500 years now.
Was the predominant shape the Alibaba shape that very flat? If the genie comes out?
The Aladdin shape.
Yeah, the Aladdin.
You've seen them. They're like they're little. They're unglazed, really small.
That kind of flat.
teapots that for Chinese tea ceremony, and they have they're literally infinite in their inventiveness.
Oh, they are.
They go on forever and ever and ever.
Oh,
And
cool.
and they're all handmade. They're 5 to like comb 5, no glaze. But it is credited as being the place where they invented the teapot.
Wow.
Kind of like Rexburg in the TV.
Yeah. Oh, is that where it came from?
Yeah.
Rigby, sorry, Rigby.
Rigby.
Farnsworth.
Wow.
There's a potato farmer that did it in the wintertime.
No kidding.
I'm not kidding. That's like a true story.
No, Farnsworth.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think they did the black and white. There was a guy named Mears who did the color.
I'll be done with these holes about 8 o'clock tonight.
This is still way easier than the way I've been doing it, which was on a separate slab.
Ah.
I'm going, that looks easier.
So you make a slab and then add it.
I make a slab and yeah, do the holes, and then yeah, attach it on the inside of the pot.
Ah.
But I might not anymore. We'll see. Anything that makes it easier.
Right.
Easier, faster, better.
So it's turned into this factory. I know we have yeah. But that's how it started. I mean, she would even take my
All right, that's enough.
Yeah, I mean, look at this.
That nice and sticky around there. I always like the analogy of a Venus flytrap. You want this surface to be so sticky when you put that together, it's like all over. Suck right in there. So, nobody's really commented on my Civil War era fish fork here. Pretty cool, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Civil War.
It's true.
Oh,
I got one of these, I won't say where I got this one, but I got one very similar to it at a yard sale in North Carolina. We went to this estate sale, and they had these forks, and it is pretty cool. If you clean this up, it's got a nice wooden handle on it, and these tines on here are like the best scoring tools in the world. They're really sharp.
substantial.
You stick yourself with them. Sometimes but it's a really great scoring tool. I can't live without it. And I found some at this yard sale. I was so excited. And they said it was Civil War era. I believe it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that long ago.
So it cost you $200 for that?
Yeah.
It's $200 scoring.
Robert E. Lee ate with this book. Isn't that just beautiful? Oh my gosh.
So which way do spouts twist? Anybody remember?
Depends on which hemisphere you're in.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Well, it is if they spin their wheel the other way when they make it in the other
They do,
hemisphere,
they
right?
spin all
Yeah.
the wheels the other way.
Yep.
Yeah, should spin back.
They're all backwards. Yeah, so I used to struggle with that a lot because I would really worry about how it would, which one it would twist. And so they come out of the kiln and, you know, I try to get them compensated, you know, and turn it over. And then I go to the next one and it'd be like, open the kiln, the spout would be like, you know, which way is it going? And I think I was always overcompensating for it. So now I just don't worry about it.
I was gonna say, I haven't even noticed it ever happening with mine. I mean, the
Well,
ones
it
that I
depends
use to
on the
compensate.
clay, it depends on how much water
Yeah,
you use, how much pressure, so there's a lot of variables with it. You just gotta kind of feel it out for yourself. But the clay, if I look at my spout dead on like this, and straight down at 6 o'clock, then if I put it at 5:45 with the hour hand, then I'd be okay. Then just back just a little bit clockwise, counterclockwise, because it'll spin clockwise on firing. So you can see this one's just off just a little bit. It'll be perfect. If this ever gets fired someday, it'll twist right into the right spot. Yeah, that's going to take a little bit of custom fitting. That to drop in there, but better too big than too small. Okay. There's any chucks in here.
They're kind of terrible ones. I don't know. See, Allison, on the bottom shelf there?
Not for that glass.
Yeah, they're not good anyway.
Josh?
Oh yeah, that's too big.
Yeah, they're
That's
not,
okay.
they're not really even symmetrical, whoever made those. I know, they're like,
They're supposed to be symmetrical?
kind of.
They're not in our studio either.
Kind of symmetrical, you know.
Isn't that just absolutely adorable?
No, I was talking about somebody about that just the other day, how we should make them. We should make some more.
Oops.
Have them around.
Time for a new trimming tool. Ah, fixed it. This is too big. Just trim this down just a little bit. That's a little better. Get closer.
He's been trying to trim the lid, isn't it? Or is that what you were going to do with the chuck? Trim the lid?
Yeah, usually it's a little bit of both. Okay, we can make that work, I think.
Yeah, you don't worry that it drives a little differently, maybe? I mean, one was out on Dougie's truck, wasn't it? One half.
Oh yeah, is that pot still out there?
Oh, yeah.
Starting to firm up.
Yeah, I'll take, you want to bring it?